I'm Starborn. Remember, to be a star, you have to shine your own light, follow your own path, and not be afraid of the darkness, because that's when stars shine brightest. On today's show, we're going to be asking ourselves a question, because that's what the title is. The title is the question, is the struggle really worth it? And so we can be looking at some sort of struggle this week, and it might not be this week, it might have been ongoing already, who knows? And that's because the planets are in an odd position, and we're going to have to live with that. First of all 10 planets are only in one half of your chart. And so you can be very busy in one half of your life in one way or another, and then the other half of your chart is completely empty. There's nothing going on over there. And so you don't need to pay attention to that too much because it's very quiet, perhaps even too quiet. So we have the planets all sort of lopsided in all of our charts, and all 10 are packed into only one half of your chart, which is where there can be a lot of things going on. But another unusual thing is happening this week, and it's very rare. I can't even remember the last time that this happened. But it does promote the idea that we are going to have to try to answer a question about some sort of struggle that we find ourselves in. And that is because all 10 planets are all being squared by some other planet. That's very unusual, to have all 10 of them undergoing a square. A square represents a challenge. And so we're going to be looking at challenges this week, and we're going to have to ask ourselves, is this struggle really worth it? And so let me explain. The reason why is because not only are the 10 planets all sort of crowded into one half of your chart and all being squared by some other planet, it simply means that there's a tension around that we have to face. And it's your choice as to whether you want to face it and continue on, and there could be some good reasons for that, or whether you're just saying to yourself, oh, I don't want to go through this one more time, forget it. And that is because 5 of the 10 planets are all squaring each other in the fixed signs. And so a square is between 2 signs. And that's what's happening. What we have are 3 planets in Aquarius, the sign of the future, and that is the Sun and Mercury, which are closely conjuncting each other, and Pluto, a planet of power, representing people in upper management, and it too is in Aquarius, and Aquarius rules the future. But those 3 planets, which are all direct, are squaring Uranus and an exalted moon in Taurus today. So there's 2 planets in Taurus, there's 3 in Aquarius. And so that means that the Sun is squaring the moon. And even though the moon is exalted in Taurus, a square would indicate indecision or confusion. But what would that be about? It would be about things that have a financial importance in your life. And so they could be about some challenging situation could occur about an investment of yours, that's what Taurus rules, or an expensive piece of property, that's also what Taurus rules. Or it could be that there is some dilemma, financial dilemma going on about the future, the costs of startup costs of a future project, because Aquarius rules the future. And so those challenges are something that you can be facing this week in one way or another, or your employer could be facing that as well. And yet, that's not the end of the story, because I said with 5 planets in the fixed signs, we have to understand that the 3 in Aquarius and the 2 in Taurus, are all opposing and squaring the other 2 fixed signs, Leo and Scorpio. So those 2 signs are empty, but they're getting challenged too. So that could indicate financial situations. And in fact, if there is a situation where the struggle is between people who are very strident, almost curiously strident about their own point of view and wanting control of something, or wanting to be the boss on something, or wanting to be the leader on something, these attitudes are sort of curiously ardent right now, as if egos are on the line. as if it's got to be a fight to the finish. And so, if you're involved with anything like that, is the struggle worth it? You'd have to ask yourself, because if it's based on greed, I would say, no, it isn't worth it. If it is based on something else, I don't know what it would be, because it seems that people can be very competitive and wanting to control a situation or even another person by sort of dominating in a financial situation. So that could be hard to live with. And then there are 3 other planets in the mutable signs, and they are all squaring each other. And that is because today Saturn and Neptune, the ruler of Pisces, and the lucky north node of the Pisces, are all being squared by Jupiter in Gemini. And Jupiter is direct now, so is Uranus in Taurus. And so there is the possibility that there are issues around about how you can make a fond dream come true. Or if there is some sort of easy transitional change that you could make. That would tend to work out because Jupiter's in Gemini, and Gemini rules easy transitional change, and Jupiter is direct. But once again, these 3 planets are squaring or opposing the other mutable signs, Virgo and Sagittarius, which have no planets in them, but they're getting challenged. Squares are challenges, so are oppositions. Oppositions actually represent separations. And so there is the possibility that there can be some sort of forced move, even changing neighborhoods, and even if it was somewhat of a struggle to undergo the move, it would tend to turn out for the best in the long run. And the reason why is that the planets in Pisces are actually really good planets, and they're all direct, and Jupiter is in Gemini, and it's direct. They're squaring each other, representing that there's a challenge around or a struggle, and if you had to move to a different neighborhood, that wouldn't be any fun, but it would tend to work out for the best in the end. Because these are such good planets in both those signs, even if they are squaring each other. Then at last, there are 2 planets in the cardinal signs, and they both square each other. See, that's a total of 10. It's amazing. Because Venus has now moved into Aries, and it's at 1 degree of Aries. But it is being squared, unfortunately, by Mars, which is retrograde in Cancer. And Mars is the only retrograde planet left now. See, when there are more planets going direct, it means you've got to go forward anyway, because that's what the planets are doing. And so there's only one retrograde planet, and it's Mars in Cancer, squaring that Venus in Aries. Well, Venus isn't happy in a sign ruled by Mars, but it's there in Aries, and unfortunately the ruler of Aries, Mars, is not only retrograde, but squaring the sign it rules. That's too bad. That means that there is some sort of struggle somewhere in all of our lives, whether it's on your job, or whether it's in a relationship, or whether it is with your budget in one way, struggling with your budget in one way or another. These challenges and struggles exist. And that is because the sign of Aries, where Venus is, and Cancer, where that retrograde Mars is, they are also squaring and opposing the other 2 cardinal signs, which are Libra and Capricorn. See, they don't have anything in them, but they're getting squared and opposed by these planets. So this is a week when we all have to ask ourselves, since squares represent challenges, is the struggle worth it? And I think that the answer can be derived from your motivation for the struggle, or what's really behind it all. And if your motivation is greed, in other words, it's some sort of a challenge that involves money, and you're wanting to get your share of it, or even more than your share of it. If the motivation is greed, I don't think it's going to work, because there's too many challenges. And they're among the fixed signs, one of which is Taurus. And then Scorpio doesn't have any planets in it, but it's being affected too. So if your motivation is greed, I think that you have to rethink something, because I don't think you'll get the money that you want. And on top of that, the struggle may not be worth it. Because if you go into a fight for money, and that ends up being an expression of big egos and of a fight to the finish, there's going to have to be a loser. And the aspects are not indicating that anybody's going to win. Not with every single planet in a square. So if your struggle or fight is about greed, I don't think you're going to win it. But if your struggle was about love, and if it meant that a very fond dream would require some sort of struggle, like a forced move to another area or neighborhood, that might work out. Because most things in life that are really worth it do have a struggle associated with them. But if your motivation is one of love, it seems to me that the struggle would be worth it. But if your motivation is about money or possessions or egos or a fight to the finish, I don't think there's going to be any winners. So try very carefully to answer that question. Is the struggle worth it? Some struggles are worth it, particularly for a loved one or for something that you love doing or somewhere where you'd love to live. Those struggles are worth it. We all have struggles, but if it's involving the happiness of either yourself or someone you love, the struggle could certainly be worth it. And so think about that. And also there's the possibility of an easy transitional change, which might be a struggle, but it would still be easy and work out for the best in the end. All right, what does this mean to all 12 of the sun signs? Aries. Aries, the good news is you have Venus in your sign. That's great. That means you can be feeling like you want to look your best, and you can be in a cheerful mood, and you can be very ardently focused on making a new start. Well, I think you're on the right track, Aries, and the reason why, particularly if you're doing this by yourself, the reason why is that there's a solar eclipse in your sign at the end of March, and you do need to get ready for it, and the only person that can get ready is you. So good, keep going on that while Venus is in your sign. But your ruler is Mars, and Mars is retrograde, so it's a little bit weaker, and it's in Cancer, and it is squaring your sun, and that is an indication that if you are thinking of making a new start, you may be forced into making some sort of a move. Cancer rules moving. Or it may be that it's a long delayed move. Maybe you should have done that already. And so you'll have to contend with that, Aries. And also the other cardinal signs, which are Libra and Capricorn, are enduring the what you might call the side effects or the after effects of the struggle between Venus and Mars. I mean, that's not really too good for anybody's relationship when Venus and Mars are squaring each other, because a square indicates a challenge. And so all of us can be going through some kind of challenge in a relationship or on the job or in a future plan that we have. And it could involve finances, meaning that you may not be too sure of how everything's going to get paid for. But if your motivation is love, I would suggest that you keep planning for a new beginning, because that solar eclipse is going to do you a lot of good at the end of March. And so focus on that. And you too will have to ask yourself if a struggle is worth it. But I would say, since that solar eclipse is going to be in your sun sign in 2 months, probably any struggle you have to go through now would be worth it if it's based on love. And that would include love for yourself, particularly since the love planet is in your sign. So good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Taurus? Well, Taurus, this is a time when you have Uranus in your sign, and it's direct now, which is great, but it is being squared by 3 planets in Aquarius, and Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius. So it's not in a good aspect to its own sun sign. So your future can be uncertain right now, Taurus. And that is because the Sun and Mercury are conjunct in Aquarius, which means some rather brilliant people are thinking of future projects and maybe the startup costs connected to a future project. And maybe they're wondering if the struggle is worth it to raise the money for something like that. Or maybe you're wondering if you can afford a new future project of your own. That's probably a good question to ask right now, because Pluto is also in Aquarius for years. It used to be in Capricorn, trining your sun for many years, which meant you always had backup somewhere, pretty powerful backup too. And that's not the case anymore, Taurus. So Pluto in Aquarius squaring your sun is a long-term challenge to you. And you are going to have to decide, if the struggle is worth it. And Taurus is a little bit of a stubborn sign, and it's a very strong sign because Taurus is the sign of the bull. So I have no doubt that if you decide on a course of action, that you have the determination and the strength to carry forward. But that does not mean you'll win. It really doesn't, because there aren't any planets in the other Earth signs. There's no backup to your sign. And so, and your sign's being strongly squared by 3 other planets. And it's opposing Scorpio, and it's squaring the sign of Leo. Those 2 signs don't have any planets in them, but that doesn't mean that you would not be faced with a struggle or questions about leadership roles, or about some sort of expensive property, or about any kind of investment issues. I would suggest, Taurus, that you narrow your focus to just one thing, and then before you make a move, ask yourself honestly what your motivation is. If your motivation is just money and greed, I don't think you're going to win anything. If your motivation is love, it's still going to be pretty hard, because there's too many planets in the sign of the future, Aquarius, squaring your sun sign. But you do have the exalted moon in your sign right now, and you do have Uranus, which is direct now. They don't have any support. There's nothing in Virgo or Capricorn. But you could be feeling strong and wanting to move forward and get things your way. And so it just depends on your motivation. Are you doing it out of love or out of greed? Because one might work even with a struggle, and the other one is going to fail because of the struggle. And you'll have to decide if now is your time to make a move, or if perhaps you should think it over a little bit more carefully. And I'd be cautious if I were you, Taurus. But do what you think is best. Okay, what does it mean to a Gemini? Well, Gemini, Jupiter is in your sign, and it's direct now, and it is being trined by all the planets in Aquarius. So the Sun and Mercury, which are conjuncting today, and Mercury is your own ruler, and Pluto in Aquarius are all trining your Sun. So that's the good news, Gemini, is that if you're thinking about the future, which is what Aquarius rules, and you're talking to influential people about some future idea of yours, this could be exactly the right time to do that. Because Jupiter is direct right now, and all the planets in Aquarius are direct as well, and one of them is your own ruler. So I would say that if you're communicating about something that you've got your heart set on, or you'd really do love it. It doesn't have to be a person. It might be a project. It might be something that you really do have the skills to succeed at, but you may need the endorsement of people who are a little higher up, or an organization that you can work with closely in order to succeed. So all of those things have to be taken into consideration. And that's good, because at the same time, Gemini, the 3 planets in Pisces, which are all very good planets, are Saturn and Neptune, and then the north node of the moon is also there, and they are squaring your Sun. So if you think the struggle is worth it for an idea that you have, or an upcoming move that you want to make, your sign rules neighborhoods. You might be changing neighborhoods, and you need the help of others. I think that probably you could at least get some good advice from others, and you may get a step up right now. But on the other hand, there can still be problems behind the scenes that involve other things you would like to do. Your sign rules 2 of everything. So you can have your mind on a great goal for your future. There's the prospect of perhaps success if you sort of hook up with the right people on that. But behind the scenes, you could be thinking of something that you'd just sort of rather be doing. And I don't know, and that would be represented by the planets in Pisces. And I don't know if that would actually, I don't know if you can have it all right now, Gemini. I'm not certain about that. And so there could be a struggle to time things so that you can still keep going forward and try to get whatever you'd rather be doing behind the scenes as well. That's a tall order. But if your motivation is love, it all could work. If your motivation is greed in any way, then I think that at least something behind the scenes is not going to work. A future project could, but possibly another dream of yours behind the scenes, if it's based on greed, it's not going to work. At least not at this time. So I would choose I'd make the winning choice if I were you, Gemini, and focus on your future, because you could be successful at that. Particularly if you hook up with other people who are sort of forward thinking right now too, and they, talk to them about your idea. They could like your good idea, and if you teamed up, that would make you more successful. Okay, what does it mean to a Cancer? Cancer. Well, the only retrograde planet in the heavens is in your sign, Cancer. It's Mars. And it is squaring the sign it rules, or at least one of the signs it rules. It is squaring Venus in Aries right now. So there is the possibility, Cancer, that there can be something in your relationships that is contentious right now. Because somebody could be wanting to make a new start, and they would want to either control it or have it all their own way, or have it be on their terms, because they've got their plan set and they want to zoom forward. You may not be in agreement with that, Cancer, and so there could be some sort of struggle going on, and you could be asking yourself, well, is arguing about this, it's getting to be the argument's getting to be a real struggle. Is it worth it? I don't know if the argument is going to be, or the struggle involving an argument or a difference of opinion is going to be worth it or not, Cancer. And the reason why is that Mars in your sign, it rules another sign. It rules Scorpio. And it is actually trining the sign of Scorpio. And it's trining all the planets in Pisces. And one of them is Saturn. Saturn and Mars are two malefic planets. They're working beautifully for you, Cancer, because they're trining each other. And so is Neptune in the North Node. You might be a little better, or at least maybe you could consider this, being real quiet around people that want to fight with you about what they want. I would try to duck out of that if you could, Cancer, and instead concentrate on how to pay for something that is based on a fond dream of yours behind the scenes. Because then all the planets in Pisces are trining your sun. Well, Saturn's one of them, and it's a very strong planet. And it's trining Mars in your sign, which is retrograde. There could have been a move that you should have made before. Or you may be thinking to yourself, oh, you might be considering that you've made the wrong move sometime in the last year or two, and you may be saying, is the struggle worth it? Should I stay here? And I'm sorry about the sirens. And the question might be that you should not do that. You should move on. And you could move back to a familiar neighborhood, and particularly one around that involves your childhood location, and that is because Gemini rules early childhood education, and Jupiter's there right behind your sun sign, and it's direct. And so behind the scenes, it's looking to me like you could be successful about some project or some dream or some move you should have made before that consolidates more of your true feelings and gives you more emotional security. Isn't that better than arguing with people? We all can be pretty sure of our feelings, and why would you struggle putting up a fight with somebody who wants to be the boss and control you in one way or another? Why don't you just turn your back on that and work on something behind the scenes that is favored to succeed right now? And you'd have the money to pay for it. See, Mars is real Scorpio, and that Mars in your sign is trining Scorpio. And all the planets in Pisces are also trining Scorpio. And so if I were you, I would ask yourself if the struggle about some sort of an argument about money or power or control, is that worth it, Cancer? I don't think it is. Because it represents, the bottom line is it represents somebody's greedy idea of their importance and the money they want. I wouldn't say they're thinking about you. They're thinking about controlling you. And so you should go with your true feelings, particularly something that you are feeling about someone or something behind the scenes, and a possible easy a move that could be a struggle, but it would be an easy transitional move, and it might bring you a lot more emotional security for the rest of your life. And that is what you should really be thinking about. Somewhere, Cancer, and I don't know if it's in your private life or in your business life or just in the location where you live, but you're in the wrong spot. And I think you know it now. And I'm suggesting that that is making you feel very uncomfortable and somewhat alienated, and you realize you might have made a mistake. Fine, you're human. Everybody makes mistakes. But it's a mistake to keep making the mistake, and you ought to get out of there. And it might be a struggle to sort of arrange that so that you can do it. But Cancer, Jupiter's coming into your sign on June 10th. You are going to have a great summer and a great year. This is the right time. If a struggle is motivated by love, the struggle is worth it. If it's motivated by greed, it's not going to get anybody anywhere. So think it over. Okay, what does it mean to a Leo? Well, Leo, yours is a fixed sign. And unfortunately, there are 5 planets in fixed signs right now. They all square and oppose your sign, Leo, and the sign of Scorpio. And that is because the Sun, your own ruler, is closely conjuncting Mercury today in Aquarius, the sign of the future, and Pluto is there as well in earlier degrees of Aquarius. And they are all 3 of them are opposing your sun sign, and in opposition represents separations. And so, Leo, somebody who's really got their eye on their future is going their way, and they're not taking you with them. This may not bother you at all. You may be just in a position where you just want to sort of have things your way, and you even want to think you could make a new start in a different direction, and that would make you happy. You might be right about that, because Venus is now in Aries and it's trining your Sun. But Uranus in Taurus and the exalted moon in Taurus today are also squaring your Sun. And that's too bad, because you've got the Sun and the moon squaring or opposing your Sun sign. There is a situation in your life, Leo, right now where you can't win it. Okay, you can't win it. There's too much strength in opposing or challenging forces. So you can't win it. My advice to you, since Venus is in Aries and it is trining your Sun, my advice to you is to take a step in a new direction. And if it's going to take you a little while to get your house in order and plan it, and maybe even make a move that should have been made before, I would advise you to do it, Leo. Because the solar eclipse in Aries, Venus is in Aries now, trining your Sun. Well, the solar eclipse at the end of March is going to be trining your Sun too. You'd almost be missing the chance of a lifetime if you don't make a move. Because the Sun is your ruler. And a solar eclipse is a new moon. With the Sun and the moon together, trining your Sun at the end of March, you should be moving forward. But if you want to instead fight a battle for control, or put your ego on the line, or be in a fight to the finish, you could be. There's a lot of tension. 5 planets in fixed signs all squaring and opposing each other. You would not be the winner, though, Leo. The strength is not in your sign. The best aspect for your sign is that Venus in Aries is trining your sign. And that's forward thinking, forward moving. Aries rules new starts. It doesn't rule sticking around and fighting with people to get what you want or to control them. It's just not going to work. Is the struggle worth it? No, it isn't. If you're struggling for control, try to get a fresh idea, Leo, because you should really try in the next couple of months to put yourself in a position to be doing something new and in a new place and doing it your way. And you don't have to argue with anybody if you're doing it your way. So get out of the argument mode and into the leadership mode. Your sign rules leadership, but the person you need to lead right now is just one person, you. You don't need to lead anybody else. You need to get ready. And so you got to sort of put yourself in order or your house in order right now, Leo. And you've got 2 months to do it. So if I were you, it's like you gotta make that jumping off point of that solar eclipse. And if you don't do that, you're going to miss it. Wouldn't that be terrible? So just concentrate on yourself and your dreams and what you want to do and how you can make a new start. And then the struggle will be worth it. All right. What does it mean to a Virgo? Well, Virgo, this is a time when there's not a lot of strength in the earth signs, but there are 2 pretty strong planets in one sign. It's not yours. It is not Capricorn. It is the moon, which is exalted today in Taurus, and Uranus is in Taurus as well. They do both trine your sun. But unfortunately, as I said in the opening, all 10 planets right now are in some sort of a square, and a square represents a challenge. So your sign is getting challenged by 3 other planets in mutable signs, and yours is a mutable sign. So that Jupiter in Gemini is squaring your sun, and it's direct. So some sort of easy transitional change, even to a different neighborhood or sort of back to somewhere that you were more comfortable, that can prove to be somewhat challenging or a struggle, but might be worth it, Virgo. And then the moon in Taurus, Jupiter in Gemini, which does rule neighborhoods, is squaring your sun, but it's a really good planet. So moving to a different neighborhood might be a really good idea, even if it is a struggle. And then the other planets that are immutable signs oppose your sun sign. And they are Neptune and Saturn and the lucky north node of the moon, which are all opposing your sign, Virgo. And you have the unlucky south node of the moon in your sign. That unlucky south node of the moon is moving backward through your sign. It moves in at the same rate as the lucky north node of the moon, which is now in Pisces. But the south node is in your sign, Virgo. That means that for the next year and a half, you're going to be running into some people who will make your life miserable, and they'll want to do it. Okay, they intend to do it. So you got to watch where you walk, Virgo, because you're going to be running into people, and these could be a woman, but it could be a man too, that just want to make your life miserable. They don't want to stop you on stuff, or want to argue with you, or won't listen to you. Okay, that's going to go on for the next year and a half as the unlucky south node of the moon moves backward through your sign. So it'll be gone in a year and a half, but that's what you've got to live with. And then the north node of the moon, Neptune and Saturn, are opposing your sun sign, which means that some sort of separation, an opposition represents separations. Some sort of separation is sort of long overdue, Virgo. You may be in a relationship or working for an employer or at a time in your life when something should have ended already. And, is the struggle worth it to have it end? Yes, the struggle is worth it to have it end. And the reason why is that Virgos like their solitude, and that's ruled by Virgo. And they like things sort of neat and tidy and in the right place. And they like to be alone at times, and Virgo is a sign of the bachelor. And so, if you live alone, you have everything your own way. And that's okay with a Virgo. And so maybe this is the time to face a struggle that you do need to face about some sort of separation that if it hasn't occurred, it should have. It should have occurred. And it isn't bringing you any happiness. And so some sort of separation. If it hasn't happened, it should. If it already happened and it has affected you adversely, then you might think over the motivation for it, particularly if it was your idea. And if your motivation was greed to get more money, and you got the money, well, okay. If it was for love, and there's a struggle involved, and you don't love somebody anymore, or they don't love you, then it is really better to sort of end something and leave it alone. And so, Virgo, you need to think over if the struggle is worth it or not. If you're struggling to stay in a relationship that is not very rewarding for you, what are you doing that for? It's not doing you any good, and it is a struggle. It's a psychological struggle, or it's a financial struggle, or something, and possibly you should end that. And there are two good planets, the Moon and Uranus in Taurus, trining your Sun. If you had to discuss a financial issue that involves property, this may be a good time to do that and settle something. Settle it, one way or the other. Because continuing to struggle or argue in some way or try to control somebody else, that's not going to get anybody anywhere. And so you need to think a little bit more about where you are today and where you want to be tomorrow. And do something about it, Virgo. It may be sort of long overdue. And there is the possibility that that you need to understand how you have changed and what your needs are today. And they certainly could be different than they used to be. For one thing, we all get older. And so you have a lot of thinking to do, Virgo, so good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Libra? Well, Libra. This is a time, Libra, when I think that you can benefit beautifully by the three planets in Aquarius, the Sun, Mercury, and Pluto, which are all trining your Sun, and Jupiter, which is now direct in Gemini, and it too is trining your Sun. That makes 4 planets trining your Sun sign, Libra. And so that means that if you wanted to make some sort of easy transitional change, either in your neighborhood or in your relationships or in your pals and buddies, or if you were working on one thing but you have enough time left over to take on another project, sort of dual projects, you could probably do that, Libra, because you could pick up a good partner right now. And you could actually pick up a partner who is rather influential or is in upper management in an organization, and they may really like your idea. They may give you some sort of backing for that. They could become a new partner of yours. That's highly favored for you, Libra, right now. But what is not favored? Where would the struggle be? The struggle would be in the fact that Venus is now in Aries and it opposes your Sun. And an opposition represents separations. And that's Venus in Aries. Somebody you know, Libra, wants to make a new start in another direction, or even if it isn't even a future direction, maybe they want to go back to the way they were doing something before. The point is, they want to do something their way, and they don't want to consider what you want. And so you're going to have to say, is the struggle worth it? If I'm pressing my point and they're not really listening, should I put up with that? Is the struggle worth it? Or is the struggle worth it because all they want is more money? Remember, if your motivation is greed, then it's not going to work. It's going to fail. If your motivation is love, the struggle might be worth it, because love is what keeps us alive. And so you have to decide. But there is somebody else that wants to do things all their own way. This may not go over with you, because Libras are very good at compromising and you know, trying to sort of do the right thing and trying to make everything glossed over and look good. And I don't think that's going to be possible in an old relationship, because somebody in an old relationship wants to change and go in a different direction. And my advice to you, Libra, is let them. That doesn't favor you. Let them go. But what does favor you is all these planets in Aquarius and Gemini that are trining your Sun. And that means some sort of possibility of a new partnership. And that's what you ought to be looking for. And I think it's closer than you think, Libra. It's around you. You know, Libras are very charming. They attract people who want to be their partner. So I think you should say goodbye to yesterday and go forward. You have a future too, Libra. So you don't need to live in the past. And I don't think you should. All those planets in the sign of the future, Aquarius, are trining your sun. You're going to get some good news, but it's going to be about something in the future. It's not going to have anything related to your past, and you ought to listen to it. Good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Scorpio? Well, Scorpio, this is a time, Scorpio, when your sign doesn't have anything in it, but one of your rulers, Mars, which is in Cancer, is trining your sun, and it's a malefic planet, and it's retrograde. So there's something that has to do with a home or a family matter that would favor you, Scorpio, if you sort of redid it in some way. Or if there was a move that should have been made long ago and you haven't done it yet, you really should do it. And that could be because now you understand you made the wrong move. And, you know, you might want to go back to something that's more familiar, that gives you a greater sense of emotional security, which you could do, Scorpio, since Mars is trining your sun and it's your own ruler. But at the same time, Saturn, another malefic planet, and Neptune and the lucky north node of the moon in Pisces are also trining your sun. Mars and Saturn represent troubling situations. There's three malefic planets, Uranus and Taurus, and the exalted moon, which are opposing your sun sign. If you're fighting about money, there's going to be no winners. And so I suggest that you end the fight in one way or another. Even if you have to write off a loss at this time, you'll be able to recoup it. You know, the important thing is to end a fight about money with somebody else who isn't just talking about money. They're talking about control. They're talking about wanting to force their ideas on you. And you know, fixed signs who fight with each other, there are no winners. Fixed signs don't budge. It's a waste of time. And yours is a financial sign. You probably know that it's also a waste of money. And so if you're in some sort of financial dilemma and you realize you've made the wrong choice on something, I would begin to plan to get out of it and end it. Because once you realize a mistake, why would you stay in it? Is the struggle worth it to your ego? Is the struggle worth it because you don't want to lose more money? Well, anybody who's motivated by greed is going to lose right now, not win. And if you're in a losing position regarding a difference of opinion about money or expensive property or the startup costs for a future endeavor, if I were you, I'd let that go. Because these planets that are in the other water signs, you know, your sign is empty, but you've got a heck of a lot of backup. And it's good backup. There's two malefic planets that aren't hurting you, they're helping you. They're helping you see that you got to get a little tough. Mars and Saturn, they're trining your sun. You got to get a little tough. You got to say, now look, this is what I'm going to do. Or even just say it to yourself, this is what I want to do. And you can also say, and this isn't working, and that isn't working, and I don't really care for this person or that person. End it. Okay, if you can't end it overnight, then at least start planning to end it and follow through on your plan. While you are so sure of your feeling and while you've got some very strong backup behind the scenes and in something that involves a home or a family matter. So I hope that you get real serious about what's good for you, Scorpio, and follow through on that. And if it's going to cost a little bit of money to end something, that's the price of your freedom. And aren't you worth it? Well, you are. And besides, you'll make up for your losses. And Scorpio rules money management. They are excellent money managers. Even if money is going down the drain in a way that at least ends a contentious situation, you'll find another resource. You'll make that up. You're good at that. So good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Sagittarian? Well, Sagittarius, yours is a mutable sign and there aren't any planets in your sign. But there's a very good planet in another fire sign now. It's Venus, which is in Aries. It's only at 1 degree. It's going to be there for a while. And it trines your sun. Now, that's sort of like having a lucky escape route right now, Sagittarius. In other words, there's a door somewhere that's open and you could go through it. And that's a pretty good idea. That door that's opening could represent some sort of new beginning, because Venus is in Aries and Aries rules new beginnings and it's trining your sun. I think you need one, Sagittarius, and the reason why is that yours is a mutable sign and there are other planets in mutable signs in harsh aspect to your sun sign. And so, you want to fight yesterday's battles, or do you want to free yourself from that and get going on the future? You could do it, Sagittarius, because there is a solar eclipse coming up in Aries in 2 months, and that's going to trine your sun, just like Venus in Aries is trining your sun now. You could have met somebody rather nice, just real quickly, right now. And, why don't you pursue that, Sagittarius? But for right now, Neptune and Saturn and the lucky north node of the moon are squaring your sun from Pisces, and Jupiter in Gemini is opposing your sun from Gemini. And that, since Jupiter is your own ruler, that simply means that something you want that's pretty easy to do is somewhat at a distance, or it's not coming straight at you, but it could. If you are wanting to do something and all the pieces haven't exactly fallen into place the way you wish they had, I would keep going on that, Sagittarius, because they're somewhat aspected to go ahead and fall into place. And that is because the planets ahead of you are so strong, ahead of your sign. These planets that are in Aquarius sextile your sun, and a sextile represents opportunity. So there may be some struggle that you are enduring with people that you don't particularly like anyway, or else you've just you realize that they're not your type. And you need to sort of grow out of that, Sagittarius. That's not doing you any good. But at the same time, you may have met somebody that's sort of intriguing right now, and I think you should follow up on that. And the planets in Aquarius, which are sextiling your sun, indicate that you're going to have an opportunity to do something new in the future, and it's a little closer than you think it is. And it could come just suddenly, but it's a little closer than you think. So if you are somewhat just tied to the past because you're just so darn used to it, and it's a struggle, but you're letting it weigh you down, forget it, Sagittarius. You have better things to look forward to, including the solar eclipse that's coming up in Aries at the end of March. So I would try something new. Just try a new way of doing something, or talk to new people. It'll boost you up. It'll make you feel great. Okay, what does it mean to a Capricorn? Capricorn. This is a time, Capricorn, when I think that you can sort of be looking around and saying to yourself, oh, gee, I must be the Lone Ranger. I don't see any support around here, or at least not as much as I'm used to. You would be right about that, Capricorn, because there's 2 planets that are in the earth signs, and they are the exalted moon and Uranus in Taurus, which are trining your sun. But for many, many years, most of the years of this century, Pluto was in your sun sign. And it made you become rather more powerful and more self-assured, so that you know what you're doing. And now you may feel as if, well, how come nobody else is aware of that? Or how come there isn't more support? Or why have my aims sort of stalled? Did I make a mistake in a choice lately? And you might have. The reason why we're asking ourselves if the struggle is worth it or not is because we have to look over our past choices and see what the motivation was for making them. And we could have made a mistake. For one reason or another. And now you have to realize that as far as money and investments and high-priced real estate and having enough money for a future project, there's a startup project, you know, you probably have that somewhere, Capricorn. Capricorns save their money. And so, you know, you probably have enough money to start going in a new direction. Is this the time for it? Not quite. And the reason why is that Venus is in Aries squaring your sun. And the solar eclipse the end of March is going to be in Aries also squaring your sun. And Mars in Cancer right now is opposing your sun sign. And so that can represent some sort of problem in the home, or involving a move, or some family matter that is problematic in one way or another. I'm not saying you caused the problem, but it could be problematic and sort of land on your doorstep, and you would know about it. And so you are one person that should be asking yourself, is the struggle worth it? You know, and if I were you, I would sit down while these two planets in Taurus are trining your sun, because Taurus is a financial sign, and go over your own financial assets. And if somebody is pressing you to spend any of your own money somewhat to solve their problems or somebody else's problems, you're going to have to ask yourself if the struggle would be worth it to you. And if it's about greed, or if it's about money, there's going to be no winners. There's 5 planets in fixed signs. There won't be any winners. There just are not people that are going to budge. But if you are thinking to yourself, do I have the resources, the financial resources, to start something new, and am I ready for it? You know, as long as it's future-oriented, as long as you're doing something that you love and you feel really strongly about, I would say that your motivation is genuine, and the struggle would be worth it. So, if you're going forward with something or someone that you love, I think you're going to be successful. Like, your ruler is Saturn, it sextiles your sun, it's in Pisces, it's being trined, it's a malefic planet, but it's being trined by Mars in Cancer. You could actually sort of get a home or a family matter straightened out, and it might be that you decide the struggle's not worth it. And if you step back and say, you know, this is not worth it, I'm withdrawing, then other people might withdraw also, and that could end it. That could end it. And you know, an ending is what you need. You need to get the controversy out of your life. And you're not even causing the controversy. It might be caused in a family situation, since Mars is opposing your sun. So, I think you need to think about what you'd rather be doing, and if you can afford it, you should go forward and do it. It's that simple, Capricorn. Just think about it. Okay, what does it mean to an Aquarian? Well, Aquarius, the sun is in your sign today. It is conjuncting Mercury, the planet of the mind, so you've got your mind on the future, don't you, Aquarius? And Pluto is in your sign very early. It's only at 2 degrees, so it's going to be there for years. And you're slowly coming into your own power. And I think the way you're doing it is that you're beginning to refine your ideas about future projects that you have in mind. This is an excellent time for you to do that, because Jupiter has turned direct in Gemini, and it is trining your sun. And so, since the 3 planets in your sign and Jupiter in Gemini are all trining the sign of Libra, which rules partnership, I think you would get a lot further right now, Aquarius, if you thought of taking on a partner. It doesn't have to be an equal partner. It could be a partner that's sort of like a part-time partner. Gemini rules part-time things. But it could just be somebody who's like a helping hand some of the time. In other words, they're not crowding your space or anything like that. But you do need help, Aquarius. And, you know, nobody can do it all by themselves. And if you could find somebody who has a certain talent maybe that you don't have, but that you know you need in the future, and try to encourage a partnership with them, that could work out splendidly right now. That could get you ahead, and it could help them too. And I mean, that's a partnership that could continue to grow. And it would help you get a new idea off the ground, or a future plan of yours off the ground. And it would reinforce the idea that you're on the right track and that you want to do things your way. And I suggest that for years to come, you stick to that. Because as I said, you're going to be coming into your own power. That Pluto is in your sign. It's not waiting on the sidelines. It's really there. And so you have to sort of do things your way, Aquarius, from now on. And I think you can do it by taking on a part-time partner right now that can help you out doing things that maybe you don't know how to do, but you need them done. And it's just one step in a future direction. But go ahead and make it. You got nothing to lose, so give it a try. Okay, what does it mean to a Pisces? Well, Pisces. This is a time, Pisces, when you would be better off if you just worked on something behind the scenes that you've had on your mind for a long, long time. And that's because Saturn is the planet of time, and it's in your sign, and it's direct. And Neptune, your own ruler, which is getting ready to leave your sign, it'll be gone by March. But it'll retrograde back into your sign later on in the year for a while. It's really heading on into Aries. And so, but Neptune is in your sign as well right now, being conjuncted by the lucky north node of the moon. Somewhere in a sort of a quiet little area of your life that maybe not too many people know about, Pisces, there can be a wonderful friend. And even if you've never met them, they could be what you might call your type. They would be your type. Or they would sort of think the way you think. Or there would be a sort of an easiness about you knowing each other. Even if you haven't met, when you do finally meet, it would just be sort of easy, casual, and successful. No effort at all. That's what the North Node is. Lucky friend. And it's conjuncting your own ruler. And that's not going to happen again. You should enjoy that while you can. And it simply means, Pisces, that with Mars in Cancer retrograde, trining your sun, and these planets, the Mars and Saturn and Neptune and the North Node of the Moon, all trining the sign of Scorpio, which is a fixed financial sign. It simply means that if you wanted to get together with somebody, even if you haven't met them, but you make an effort to meet them now and get together with them, you know, it would be sort of an easy conversation. It would be very compatible, and they would represent some sort of lucky friend that could take you out of the shadows of things that have been bothering you and at last help you make a dream come true. And it might involve a move. You might have made the mistake of moving in a later time, and you realize now it's not working for one reason or another. But Mars is retrograde in Cancer. Cancer rules moving, and it's trining your sun. And Scorpio doesn't have anything in it, but it's trining your sun, meaning that, you know, if you're asking yourself, well, would the struggle be worth it to move now? The answer is yes. And on top of that, there could be more money down the road if you did that. Now, what if you don't want to move? Well, okay, but the problem is that there is some family or property matter that does have to get straightened out. And I think that the idea of you sort of sticking where you're not comfortable is not doing you any good. And even if it was that you move back to an old neighborhood and you remodel or something like that to make something fit you for the lifestyle you have now, that would be helping to make a dream come true too. You know, you have a lot of potential for success, Pisces, but it is involving things that you have kept hidden from others that are very important to you. And if they're so important to you, then it involves either someone you love or something you love doing. And would the struggle be worth it? If you have to make a move, would the struggle be worth it? Yes. Would the struggle involve an easy transitional change? Yes. Would you have the strength to do it? Mars trining Saturn? Yes, you would have the strength. You may even find some very strong people to help you. So yeah, if you've made a mistake in the past, Pisces, this is the time to leave it behind. Just leave it behind. And realize, you know, we all make mistakes. So don't punish yourself for that. But the best way to end a mistake is to go in a new direction. Even if you have to go back to something like a childhood neighborhood and somewhere where you're feeling more connected with your own old friends or family, that would be fine. That might help you, actually. So good luck. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in. And thank you very much for the new subscribers. And I hope you tell your friends about the show. And so until next week, I will see you right here in my Karen Campbell YouTube channel for the show, STARBORN. I'll see you then. Bye.